It's 2021, and here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's election time. Here in the Commonwealth, in November 2nd, we're going to elect our statewide officers for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, and every House delegate in the Commonwealth. But also here in the city of Norfolk, we will have an election for Super Ward 7 for the city council person that will take that seat. It's Save the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. It's Save the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank all of you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday in Hampton Roads, where we just spent an entire week of homecoming events here on the campus of Norfolk State University, here in the great city of Norfolk. I'm telling you, it was a homecoming like no other. You know, we've got our producer, Marvin Folks, also known as Scandalous, here on WNSB, the new sound of Hot 91, the soul of VA. Homecoming game, homecoming parade. I mean, it was everything it was meant to be. I mean, Friday, the students had a phenomenal time here on campus. All through the week, we had phenomenal events where we had a wonderful reception for Norfolk State's only and first Hall of Famer Bob Dandridge here on the campus. We also recognize Norfolk State's own and the NFL's first and only black female referee, Maya Shaka, here on the field during the game. And look, let's give it up to the Spartans and the football team and the phenomenal win that we had against University of Virginia at Lynchburg. Again, so many great things are happening here on the campus of Norfolk State University in this moment in time and vision under our seventh president, Dr. Javon Adams Gaston, who we refer to affectionately as Dr. J. But you know what? The Spartan Nation couldn't be what it is unless we had you, all the students, alumni, stakeholders, faculty, staff, administrators, and all that love, all that's good about NSU. So, with that, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you either. So I want to thank you again for your support and all that you give for this show, for the Center, which is a radio program, an initiative of the Center for African American Public Policy here at Norfolk State University, housed in the College of Liberal Arts. So we're going to get right down to it because this is a very important show. Every show is important, but this is a very important show because we're talking about election. It's election season here in the Commonwealth. And it's the most important election in the country because 2021 is the bellwether year for midterm elections after the election of our president. I'm telling you, Virginia and the Commonwealth are moving things forward and all eyes are on Virginia. But guess what? All eyes are on the city of Norfolk as well. Because here in this election, the citizens of the city of Norfolk will elect the next representative for Super Ward 7 City Council. And this entire month, we've had candidates on representing the city council. We've invited all of them. And today, we currently have challenger Jason Inga, who's joining us here on Save the Water. Mr. Inga, thank you for joining us, Save the Water. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Doctor?
Absolutely phenomenal. If you can't tell my excitement, I'm a little tired. We were in homecoming events all week, but I'm telling you, it was well worth it.
It was well worth it, and most of all, I want to just say, behold the green and gold. I was there. Look, I was out there cheering and partying for homecoming as well, so it was definitely worth it. We've been locked up for 18 months,
right?
And it was the best homecoming that we've ever had.
You know, it was one where the university took the steps to open up the campus to the Spartan Nation and all of our visitors. Of course, we took all measures under the CDC. You had to be vaccinated, you have vaccination, you had to be verified. And in order to get into the game and most of the events as well, I mean, it was just phenomenal. The safety measures of the administration, university, hats off to them. And again, we're continuing to lead the way in many, many areas. So we're so glad you had a chance to come down.
I kept my actual vaccinated ribbon. That's my badge of honor. for homecoming 2021. So to say I was at NSU and I was vaccinated. So everybody out there, keep your little vaccinated thing that you had, because we're the only HBCU that made sure that we did that in the 757 to make sure that everyone, thousands of people on campus were vaccinated, and you couldn't come unless you were. So I just wanted to make that very clear that we're taking care of our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, we want to talk about you just for a moment here. You know, you're running for the seat occupied currently here in Super Ward 7 in the city of Norfolk, occupied currently by the Honorable Danica Royster, who was appointed to that seat after the former city councilwoman, Angela Williams-Graves, was elected to the 90th District House of Delegates after the current representative was appointed to be judge. Again, a lot of great things happening in the Commonwealth, but that left an opportunity for this election here for individuals that want to challenge and represent the city of Norfolk Super Ward 7. Tell us why you want to represent the city.
Excellent. And it leaves an opportunity for us to get to the polls today. It's souls to the polls in Norfolk that you can go out and you can vote for me once I give you my pitch. I'm a servant leader, an independent voice, and a proven leader with a track record. I am running to invest in our communities, to lift our communities out of poverty into prosperity. I want to see every Norfolkian with livable wages that will create generational wealth for our families. I'm fighting to improve quality of life for our residents and prioritize safe, healthy, and inclusive neighborhoods. I'm tired of seeing our children dying in the streets in our city. I'm tired of holding the hands of so many grieving mothers and fathers. We have to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. And I'm here and I'm running to make sure that we have someone that is an advocate, activist, and ally who's been on the grounds doing the work. We had the Berkeley supermarket, and when we didn't have the Berkeley supermarket, I was out there on Berkeley and Compostela in the food desert handing out over hundreds of food. That's what we call activism. When we did not have shelter for our homeless people, we advocated to the city, and now the city just purchased a budget hotel to turn it into an innovative place for homeless, transitional homeless. I was part of that. I helped that with Katrina Freeman. That's the activist in me. That's why I'm running. I'm running to create housing solutions that will provide solutions that are safe, affordable, and on fair terms for everyone. I believe that housing is a basic human right in our city and our nation. And most of all, the most biggest thing that I am really pushing on is fully funding public education in Norfolk Public Schools. Your zip code should not dictate your future in the city of Norfolk. I want all of our children to have an equitable education with the tools and resources they need, where every student matters and every school counts. I'm asking you to put your trust in someone who came here for a better opportunity 12 years ago, got right on the ground, helping people, making sure that we took care of the least, the lost, and left behind. Those who have been there, that know the issues that are going on in the community. I have been working, and I will continue to do that work. I don't want to work for you as your city councilman. I want to work with you. And if I can't move the mountains for you, I want to climb those mountains with you as your councilman. That's what it's all about. I'm coming from a leadership of servitude. I'm here to serve the people of Norfolk, and I'm asking for you to put your trust in me. Something new. Someone that does not have any interest, that's unbought and unbought, as Shirley Chisholm once said. That's me. Someone new, a bold leader, a quality choice and change. That's why I'm running, Doctor. Is it okay if I call you Eric?
That's fine. Absolutely.
Okay.
Listen.
I just wanted to make sure. Look, you work hard for that, because I'm working on my PhD now, and I understand, when I get it, I can't wait to be called doctor. But,
Well, listen, we've actually known each other for a while, so absolutely. And listen, not only that, but the work that you're doing in the community. You've mentioned what your campaign platform is, and you have the tagline "New Vision, New Direction." But you're not new to the work that you're doing. Tell our listeners some of the things that you have been doing up to this point in the community, in the city of Norfolk.
Of course. So we can go back. We've been in this pandemic for over 18 months. I have been on the ground since this pandemic has started in protecting our seniors, making sure that our seniors have had meals, access to transportation. Over 332,000 meals have been delivered to our seniors. Thousands of miles have been driven to get them back and forth to their doctor's appointments. That's one of the things that I've done. I've made sure that we've improved our communities, walking along with our police officers in some of our most dangerous communities, talking with them, seeing what the issues are so that we can build better community relations with our law enforcement and we can stand together to combat the violence in our community. Those are just some of the things that I've been doing. And like I said, with Katrina Freeman, when we had the big homeless issue on 29th Street, when our homeless were being displaced and had nowhere to go and they had to go to the Greyhound station, me, along with Keep Virginia Warm, we fought and advocated for the city to buy the budget hotel, to make sure that they had a place for transitional housing. Those are the things that I have been doing alongside the other advocates in our city. And the most of all, before the Berkeley supermarket came, me and Michelle Harrison, we were there every third Saturday feeding hundreds of people who did not have food during the pandemic to make sure that no one went without any hunger or thirst. These are just some of the things I've been able to do, and in the good work I've been able to do in the servitude. It's so much to name, and I don't want to just give credit to myself. I'm just here to do the people's work and do what God has called me to do, and that's to simply serve. That's what I've been doing from day one.
You know, Jason, you mentioned on your website, and again, the website where you can find more information about him is JasonInge, INGE.com. You can find more about him, his platform, and how you can support him. But you talk about being a first-generation college graduate in your family and a millennial leader. And I've had conversations with others who are in our group, and some have said, you know, there's not that many of us who were first generation, that were educated, that actually stayed back in the community where we came from. What drove you to actually stay and be that millennial and servant leader as you just described?
So, yes, I am a first-generation college graduate of my family, blue-collar working family. My mom was a plumber and my dad was a factory worker. I moved to the area over 12 years ago and invested here in the betterment of Norfolk. I decided to make Norfolk my home because this is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want to invest and build a better community. I know that I'm a transplant here, but I see the worth and the potential. And the people who have lived here all their life and the things that they have been through, I bring a new voice to them to help them advocate and get the change that they need. That's where I come in as a millennial. And with me working in the various roles, I'm able to bridge the generational gap that we have between millennials and our older adults. I'm able to bring people together and build coalitions on common goals for the betterment of our community.
Absolutely. And listen, you know, we know you went to Virginia State, you know, the mother of Norfolk State, but, you know, we forgive you on that. But, you know, but listen, in a few moments we have left, I want you to talk about the importance of this election. Why is it important for us to get out and vote for the citizens of the city of Norfolk? I mean, we just had a huge, you know, we're just coming out of an 18-month pandemic, really almost 24 months now. We come from really, and I was talking with someone about this, you know, really 60 months, 5 years of trauma, you know, from on the national level, where it was just something every day. And I think a lot of people may be fatigued and saying, well, it doesn't really matter. Why does this election matter in this time, and especially for Super Ward 7?
Eric, this election matters. Today, I had the opportunity to have Stacey Abrams come to our church at Faith Deliverance Christian Center, where I'm a member, and she worshiped with us. And she talked about Virginia is the bellwether state. We will decide the future of America when it comes to voter rights, women reproductive rights, when it comes to everything, prison reform, police reform. Virgianians, if you will listen to the sound of my voice, we have to progress forward. We cannot go back. We have made so much progress in this administration, and we cannot go back to where African Americans do not have the freedoms that they have. We're in 2021. and now we have early voting where we can go on a Sunday and vote. We did not have that 20 years ago. We do not have the actual police reforms that we have now in place. We have to move forward. This election is very vital. I know some people listening say, hey, I only vote during presidential elections. No, you need to come out and vote in this election as well, and vote on both sides of the ballot. We have a big ballot this year. It's two-sided, so make sure you flip on both sides and vote all the way down. And I know we're a little short on time, but I definitely will say I'm first on the ballot, so definitely vote for me on Super Ward 7. But in closing, this election is the most pivotal, the most important election that would determine the future of our generation to come. This would determine the generation of Norfolk State University, Old Dominion University, Norfolk Public Schools. This is the election that if we literally will either vote or we literally could die. We do not want to be a Florida. We do not want to be a Texas. We do not want to be the other 30-plus states that have voted on voter suppression and voter disenfranchisement laws. We want to be the state of progress, the state of opportunity, the state of inclusion. So I'm imploring everyone that is listening to get out there and vote. You can vote early today at any of the polls in Berkeley, Jordan Newby Library, Lambert's Point, or Mary Pretlow Library between 11 to 4 today with Souls to the Polls at any of those locations. And we will actually, right now, I'm outside of City Hall at a rally. We're going to be marching from City Hall to Jordan Newby Library today. So you can meet us there and you can go vote there, and they will have your ballot. At the end of the day, it's time for us to get up and vote. Because if this vote was not essential, they would not be trying to attack the black people the way that they are. Our vote matters. We have to get out there and vote. I'll close on that.
Yeah, you mentioned something that's very important, about why the attack is there. And many times we talk about where the greatest resistance is, you will find the greatest importance. And here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we actually have a legislature that expanded access to the ballot box, wherein the former Confederate state of Georgia, they actually are restricting, and across other states, restricting access to the ballot box. So when you talked about souls to the polls, keep in mind, and I want our listeners to know, this didn't exist several years ago. You can go vote on Sundays. You can go vote even leading up to the election on Saturdays. You can vote during the week. You can go vote when it's convenient for you. Go down to City Hall, go to your respective voter registration locations in your city, if it's not here in Norfolk or Portsmouth, Suffolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Newport News, Hampton, Williamsburg, wherever you are, you can go vote throughout the week. You don't have to wait till Election Day on November 2nd. And that only happens with good leaders who are public servants, service-minded for the people, creating opportunities for you to vote when it is best for you, removing barriers and ensuring that your voice is heard. Everyone, this is Jason Inga, a millennial leader and a public servant who's been doing it for a while, who's looking for your vote to vote in this election to be the next city council person in Super Ward 7, which that seat is currently occupied by the Honorable Danica Royster here in the city of Norfolk, Commonwealth of Virginia. Jason, tell our listeners where they can learn more about you and where they can get involved with your campaign and support you.
Of course, yes. Anyone listening, you can visit my website, www.jasonjasonninge.com. You will learn there to support me. It always costs us money for a campaign, so donation, as well as gives you my support and telling you where I stand, because that's the biggest thing. We need to know, where do the people who are running, where do they stand and where do they want to see us go? I have my vision on my webpage, and it tells you everything that you need to know. Alone, we can do so little, but together we can do so much. Helen Keller said that, and that's what I want for us in Norfolk. I want us all to rise together. Now, I will say this. In this election on the ballot for our election, it's a nonpartisan election, so do not get confused when you see all the names on the ballot. But I know this is a nonpartisan show, and I respect that, Eric, and I thank you so much. But I know people don't like to go on the record. I'm a Democrat. I don't mind telling people that to let you know who I am when you go to the ballot box and what you're going to get. But I will be an independent voice on city council. We may not always agree, but we will find solutions to better our community. Thank you so much, Eric, for your time. And once again, behold the green and gold.
Jason Egan, thank you so much, and good luck to you in the upcoming election.
Thank you so much. Take care. God bless.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jason Ingo, one of the candidates running for Super Ward 7 to represent you here in the city of Norfolk. You hear the passion in his voice. You've heard a little bit about his background. He is a millennial leader. You know, we're in that age group where the next generation is stepping up as the generation that forged ahead and trailblazed for us. We're standing on their shoulders. Keep in mind, we didn't get here by ourselves, but we're standing on the shoulders of great men and women that actually took the mantle and said, I'm going to run with this. They took the baton. They said, I'm going to run, and I'm going to ensure that the generation behind us is better than the generation we came out of. So that's actually the task of every generation. Yeah, and again, when we talk about Super Ward 7, Marvin just, reminded me, what does Super Ward 7 mean? That is probably the most diverse historical Super Ward here in the city of Norfolk. I mean, we've got, from Titustown to Lake Taylor High School area, to Lambert's Point, to Broad Creek, to Ballantyne, to Norview, and all in between. Easton, those are areas where you find where many people, when they have connection to the city of Norfolk, they have connections to the Super Ward 7. Just about every person, whether you're born here, whether you've lived here, transplant, whatever the case may be, or if you have parents that grew up here, they will talk about one of those areas, right? It's also an area that covers a very important delegate district, which is represented by Delegate Jay Jones, who actually was on the show last week to talk about the importance of getting out there and voting in his election. So it's an area that without it, we wouldn't have the essence. It represents the essence of the city of Norfolk. And I think that's the perfect way to put it. So when you vote for the representative that was currently occupied by Sheila Grace Williams, who actually is then the new delegate that took the seat in a special election left by the former delegate, Lindsay, who actually became a new judge appointed, and now currently in this city council seat appointed the Honorable Danica Royster, who currently occupies that seat. And she's running. You also have 5 others who are running. Jackie Glass, just heard Jason Inga. You have Mr. Philip Hawkins. You have Mr. Muhammad, and you also have Mr. McRae. And we've reached out to all of them, of course, to be on the show. We understand they're campaigning and their time is limited. So whenever they're available from here until the election, we will have their voices as much as we can here on the show. But we're also going to have other voices as we have had, both for the House, our alums. Delegate Cliff Hayes, of course, has been on the show. And also, we will have the state office runners, the candidates, from the gubernatorial candidates to the attorney general to the lieutenant governor. And for those of you that did not have a chance to catch it live, last week, Thursday for last, we had the Norfolk State Wavy gubernatorial roundtable, the only one in the entire Commonwealth where it was broadcast at 7 o'clock across every NBC station, Nexstar station across the state. And Norfolk State, the Behold, was centered in that. It was the partnership that we have here with our wonderful station. And not only that, but the question from our student leaders, and then several wonderful stories leading up to it. You can go to wavy.com or you come to nsu.edu and you can see that, what took place and what happened during that time period. But we're the only university that was able to have that roundtable because they only agreed to 3 debates, right? But we're the only university, the only HBCU that was, and the only university here in the Hampton Roads area that was able to have that roundtable. So again, Norfolk State, we're forging ahead. We're setting the standard, new standards of not just excellence, but new heights of achievement here in the Commonwealth. But I want us to go back to one thing that Mr. Inga stated about this election. It's a very important election. And the importance of this election is that it's also, we're going to talk about this in the second half hour, where I'm going to take a look at the importance of this election as it relates to the year after the presidential election and the year before the midterms across the country, and how important the Commonwealth is. I'm also going to talk about the reasons that I believe, and that's been written about, this election is so close at the top of the ticket, the gubernatorial ticket. Keep in mind, when we talk about tickets, it's the top of the ticket that usually, the majority of the time, dictates everything below it, or what's called the damn ballot. And Ms. Inga pointed out something very important. Don't turn in your ballot until you flip it over. This election is so big. We've got, candidates and issues on the back of the ballot. Just like an exam. Sometimes you see it on the front and then it's like, oh, you finished that fast? Did you finish the back? It's like, oh, no, I forgot to turn the page over. So don't forget to turn over the page. But we're going to talk about the importance of this election. We're going to look at the reasons why this election has become so close at the top of the ticket and why it's going to make a lot of the other races more competitive than it was actually advertised about 6 months ago. But actually, a couple of months ago, 45 days ago. And then we're going to talk about, again, where you can go vote, how you can get more information about the candidates so that you can make the choice that's best for you. But this is Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville, and we'll be back in just 1 minute to discuss the importance of this election.
Join the NAACP and local churches on Super Sundays in Norfolk on October 17th and 24th, and in Hampton, Newport News, Suffolk, and Virginia Beach on October 24th, and march to the early vote location to vote. Please encourage your church members to vote on Super Sunday. Your vote is your voice. For more information, call 757-267-0277.
Hot 91.
Love it.
The soul of VA. Your comments and suggestions are appreciated on the Hot 91 comment line at 757-278-4151.
Hi, my name is Laura Brown, and I live in Suffolk, and I listen to 91.1. I love the local artist. Oh my God, I love that song.
Thank you so much for your comment. We are Hot 91. The soul of VA.
Welcome back to Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville, here on the new sound of Hot 91, the soul of VA, WNSB, here on the campus of Norfolk State University, beholding green and gold of Spartan Nation, where we just celebrated homecoming here on the campus, homecoming 2021. And it was definitely a homecoming. It was great to see all the alumni band, alumni activities, all the stakeholders, families, and friends. Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Marvin. He just reminded me, we announced it at halftime, that the Spartan Legion was invited to perform at the 2023 Rose Bowl. That's right. Norfolk State will be in Pasadena, California. Beautiful Pasadena, at the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. That parade, I'm telling you, I mean, it's one that you got to see every year. And we're fortunate enough and blessed enough to be a part of that. But it's no surprise. The things that are happening here, here at Norfolk State, that's never happened before. This is a new era, new time. And again, our mission, our time, our vision here under our phenomenal 7th president, Dr. J, and our board of visitors, we are blazing new trails, exciting trails, and we're happy about it, excited. So here on the second half of the show, this is our election series. In the entire month of October, we're having our election series here in 2021 for the election of our statewide officers, from governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, every single member of the House of Delegates. And in every city, we're having special elections or elections for certain things. So case in point, here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in the city of Norfolk, we are electing the next city council person to represent us here in Super Ward 7, what we call the essence, the ward, which is the essence of Norfolk, right? that we can call the essence and soul of Norfolk. It really is. So we've had several candidates who've appeared on the show. We've reached out to all of them. So those, we understand that campaigning is very heavy and schedules are limited. So those that are able to come on, we will have them on in order to give their voice to the reason why they want to represent you here in Super Ward 7. In addition to that, we will also have candidates who are running for statewide office here on the show as well to talk about the importance of them running and why you should vote for them. And this election, we're also going to talk about the importance of the Commonwealth in 2021. Many persons, we've had these elections all the time and things of that nature, but really we wouldn't look at the importance, Marvin. So as we look at the importance of this, it really puts a spotlight on the Commonwealth once again, as we will start to now be the test case, the litmus test of what will happen in the next year, midterm-wise, on the federal election side for the House of Congress and Senate, and then in 2024 when we elect our next president and vice president of the United States. I'm telling you, absolutely amazing. So let's take a look at, first of all, what the voting here. Then we'll take a look at the importance of this election. And then finally, the reasons why I believe this election has become so tight at the top of the ticket. So once again, on November 2nd is our general election, where we will go to the polls and elect our next governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and every member of the House district, House of Delegates, and other positions in our city. But you don't have to wait now until November 2nd. You can go vote now. Every Sunday, you can go vote. If you're planning a church outing, going to the polls is probably one of the best outings you could plan. Everyone after service, or we're going to have, service or a prayer walk to the polls, right? And then go vote. Vote for the candidate of your choice, but go vote. Make your voice heard. Our churches are leaders in our community. They're a place for spiritual guidance and leadership. They're a place for social settings, but they're also our place, especially in the African American church, that are our leaders in the community. It's that moral guide, that ethical guide, that our church has played, especially during the time that we were in bondage and slavery, after slavery and Jim Crow, legalized segregation, and during the modern civil rights era of the 1950s and 60s. Our churches led the way. They were a pivotal part of those changes. And it hasn't changed. The importance of of the churches hasn't changed yet. So this is an opportunity for our churches and our leaders of our faith community to actually get a lot of people to the polls, get our members to the polls to actually go vote and make their voices heard. But again, this is an opportunity for them to do. And it's a great opportunity in order to do it. But also, let's just say you don't want to vote on Sunday. You want to keep that day for your personal time, for your family, for worship, whatever the case may be. You can go vote Monday through Saturday. You can go to your city hall, to your place where you register to vote, and go vote. That's how that the Commonwealth of Virginia, the legislative here in Virginia, which became Democratic and which is why that opened up, actually provided those provisions in law and passed the State of Virginia Voting Rights Act, where local elections, not national, that's governed by the 1965 Voting Rights Act, but our local elections here in the Commonwealth, any changes that take place that is against the state laws that were provided, then they have to ensure that it is governed by state law. You can't abridge those laws and the like. So therefore, you have to open up your polls to go vote on Sunday. Yeah, you can't vote online. Not yet. We're waiting on that app, though. Maybe that's a great idea for some of our students. Create the voting app, right? You take Marvin's here smiling. He's a cybersecurity graduate student who's getting ready to graduate with his master's degree in cybersecurity. But that's a great idea, the voting app. Partnering with our government, federal government, state government, local governments, to provide secure voting on our app. Hey, I'm just throwing it out there. But you can go vote right now. Also, which started, the first day was Friday, September 17th. Now the deadline to register to vote has actually passed. And that was Tuesday, October 12th. But for those of you who are already registered to vote in this election, you can go vote early now. And let's just say you don't want to get out. You can now still request your ballot, but it has to be requested by 5 o'clock. All right, 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. on October 22nd. That's Friday. And then you can mail it in. You can mail your ballot in. But you can go vote on Saturday, October 23rd. You can vote on Saturday, October 30th. And the last day to vote in person, early voting at your local voter registration office is Saturday, October 30th at 5 p.m. In other words, guys, ladies and gentlemen, listeners of State of the Water, WNSB, Hot 91 and Solar VA, stakeholders, proud Spartans, there is nothing holding you back from going to go vote. Exercise your voice. We've made it that way because we listened to you. We saw the barriers that were there, and those barriers were removed through smart, common sense, public policy. And that's what it's all about, being a public leader, public servant, serving the public. So you can go again to elections.virginia.gov. That's elections.virginia.gov. Learn more about the candidates. Learn more of everything I just talked about as it relates to going out to vote, when you can go vote, the places to go vote. But go down to your city hall if you're in Norfolk. That's easy. Go to your city hall and your local city halls or voter registration office here in your various cities, whether it's Virginia Beach, the city of Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Suffolk, Newport News, Hampton, Williamsburg, James City County, Yorktown. Go to your local city office. Gloucester, go vote. And those are all the areas that hear WNSB. In the Commonwealth, of course, we have areas below us in North Carolina. But go and vote. Make it a party. Hey, guys, I'm going to get something to eat. You guys want to go vote? After we can go vote, then go out to get something to eat, right? Make it an adventure. Make it a party. Now, let's take a look at the reason why this election is so important. So, in 2020, of course, we know, we elected our current president and vice president here in the United States of America. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris. We understand this was an historic election for many reasons, but definitely the obvious. You know, the first HBCU graduate to hold one of the highest offices in the land, first female to hold one of the highest offices in the land, and first female of color, African-American, black person, right, to hold the highest office one of the highest offices in the land. After an African-American, a black man, held the highest office in the land twice, right? Was elected and then reelected. So again, a lot of historic reasons for this election we just had. Then January 6th happened, right? So we have this new thing called election audits, integrity. And those that lost basically were bitter. They were creating false narratives. We call those lies, which have been proven by the courts. Again, this is not opinion. These are courts. You can take a look at the Dominion lawsuit, not Dominion Energy, but Dominion voting machines that brought a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani and several others that were pushing the false narrative of the lies of the election integrity. Yes, several $1 billion, because they're ruining the reputation of those machines. Just lies. So you can take a look at the hearings in the court, and it will tell you exactly that they said, hey, we basically did not tell the truth, right? We didn't check our sources and the like. But then we had the swearing in. We had January 6th, the insurrection, which was a shameful day in our community, in our country, and just across the board, especially for democracy. But we saw that democracy is strong, is resilient, and our current president and vice president were sworn in. Okay? Now, Fast forward, we have current election audits of ballots in states such as Georgia, Arizona, and other states. And these audits are showing that, guess what? The election was right. Okay? But still people refuse to believe it. So now you have a movement across the country. It's not a lot of steam, but you have a movement that says, oh, we need election integrity. We need to change the rules because we lost. So now you have that movement from 2020 to 2021 that's trying to take hold leading up in this election. In 2022, we will have what's called the midterm federal elections, where we will elect members of the U.S. Congress and also, which are part of the House and also the U.S. Senate. So the balance of power, the legislative side, which is one of the most, probably in some instances, the most influential side, right, as it relates to laws being created and passed. Of course, the Supreme Court is that of checks and balances. The president has a bully pulpit, the power of law through executive order. But it's the legislative side and that balance in Congress, which is very important. So we have 2020 and 2022. Right in the middle of 2020 and 2022 is 2021. And the election here in the Commonwealth of Virginia is utilized as the test case, the litmus test, as to how the rest of the country will vote in 2022 and how they feel about their vote in 2020. So we are the test. We are the test, the temperature check for the country on many of these issues. And we have candidates who are representing these issues, or intentionally or by default because they're part of that particular party. And they're representing those issues simply by who they are and how they're running. So now, depending on who wins the gubernatorial race to be our next governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the members of the House of Delegates will, in many cases, determine which side will actually win in 2022. Why is that, you say? I mean, Marvin's looking here and saying, how is that the case? So what's happening is that now in this election, there's an opportunity to create campaign platforms to run on. So January 6th seemed to be a long time ago. People have maybe forgotten about it. Indictments are still happening. I just want to put that out there. So persons are still getting knocks at the door by the FBI saying, hey, you were here. We've got your picture, and being indicted for their participation in January 6th. But for the most part, it's out of the purview of the psyche of the American citizens, right? Absolutely. Those events that took place, we don't see them as much as we saw them in the spring. Also, the hearing, the commission is not getting a lot of making a lot of headway. It's not getting a lot of play in the news media. Very similar to a lot of other commissions, maybe the 9/11 Commission and others like that. The commission for Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, Benghazi it was. So it's not getting a lot of airplay. So people are forgetting about it. So now there's an opportunity for the other side, the Republicans to the conservatives, to try some other campaign platforms, some issues that they could possibly run on across the country. So the election integrity is one. It's kind of dicey. Okay. It's one that's kind of tricky. It's one where some people don't want to be associated with it because it's a false narrative, right? But it's out there. They're still talking about it, but it's not translating across the board in order to get an over 50% push in the polls. But there's one that's taking hold, and that's schools and what's taught in schools. So CRT, which is critical race theory, we'll do a show about this after the election to really talk about and delve into what critical race theory actually is. That's getting a lot of publicity in schools. We're seeing the vaccine and the mask mandates getting a lot of publicity in schools. And finally, we see the push for parents to have more say-so in curriculum and what is books, what's taught in schools, what's read in schools, and the like. So those are the three areas that we're looking at that's really helping to push a different narrative, a campaign stance and platform in the voting electorate, and that's schools. And it's about freedom. It's being fashioned around freedom. Freedom to choose whether I want to wear a mask or want to get vaccinated. Freedom to, even though we have to have shot records to go to school anyway, freedom to choose if my child gets to read a book that may be explicit in some areas, freedom to choose if my child is instructed under a curriculum that is falsely making the assumption that my child is a racist because of critical race theory, that's not what it's about. Right, taking the teaching of history out of school. Listen, critical race theory, just very quickly, it's a legal theory. It's been around since 1979. I teach from it, and I develop my own teaching doctrine in constitutional law and civil rights, fashioned from it. It does not say that a person is inherently racist from birth. It simply analyzes policies that were created to give an unfair advantage to one group of individuals and disadvantage all other groups. That's all it says. Not one, but all. Exactly. But because of persons feeling that guilty, because they may have been advantaged unfairly, it's kind of hard to look in the mirror, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is. But anyway, that's what critical race theory is. So now that platform is taking hold here in the Commonwealth, in this gubernatorial race. It's around freedom, which now leads us into the third part of this discussion in the second half hour as to why I believe this race is closer than it was just 30 or 45 days ago. So around June, July, former Governor Terry McAuliffe was leading in the polls by about 9 to 10 percentage points, depending on which poll that you looked at. So it was a comfortable lead. It showed that the citizens of the Commonwealth were comfortable with the current Democratic governor, Governor Ralph Northam. They were comfortable with having a former governor before Northam, which was Terry McAuliffe, represent them again in the office of governor in 2021, 4 more years, right? It also showed that the citizens of the Commonwealth, by default, were comfortable with the Democratic president that we had and vice president and those policies. And January 6th was still fresh in everybody's mind. Then, what a difference 3 months made. We had the Afghan pullout. We had the infighting of the Democratic Party on the national scene as it relates to different rescue policies and acts. And we're taking a look now at whether we want $1 trillion for American rescue package for jobs, or do we want $3.5 trillion for social policy with progressive Democrats. So now we see that infighting with 2 U.S. senators, one specifically to our west, Senator Joe Manchin, and also to our north, Senator Bernie Sanders, in the middle in a tug of war. And we have the president right in the middle. Then we also have Haiti. That's right, Marvin. We have what we saw with the Haiti immigrants coming in and those horrific images that we saw. And really taking a look at how the immigration policy changed under former President Trump and how we're looking at immigration now, right? And also how climate change and instability in countries are forcing people to migrate to the north, America and the European countries, to escape the instability created in part by colonialism and that legacy through those countries. And also climate change as well. So we have what's called climate refugees. And then we have this election, again, as I stated, election integrity And then finally, the school fight. Fight of freedom. Freedom to wear a mask or be vaccinated or not be vaccinated. Freedom to choose which books your child can read or not. And then freedom to actually be taught certain things in the curriculum, even though critical race theory is not taught in schools. It's on the ballot, right? Even though it's not taught in K through 12. So now the election went from 9 to 10 percentage points down to, in some polls, within the margin of error of 4%. It's caused that gap to shrink tremendously. And now I'm looking at 538. 538 shows us that where that poll, as of October 15th, the leader is Terry McAuliffe by 2.9%, leading 48.5% by Youngkin's 45.6%. That's even smaller of the 4% margin of error. Now, there are Fox polls that show that there is a +5 and a +11, showing McCullough 51, Youngkin 46, also showing McCullough 52 and Youngkin 41 as of October 14th. And then, again, other polls are still showing that 3% margin. You have Christopher Newport University poll showing McCullough at 49% and Youngkin at 45%. And there's a third-party candidate, Blanding, showing at 1%. Now, just as a disclaimer here, I don't think the third-party candidate will be an Al Gore. Will be the spoiler, as in the Gore versus Bush election. That time we have Ralph Nader and Ross Perot that really challenged the third party and really garnered a lot of votes. I don't think that's going to happen here. And nobody else really does. And then we also have in the other races where that ballot itself is very close, in the attorney general's race and the lieutenant governor's race. And by the way, win or lose, whatever side, we will make history in the Commonwealth of Virginia for the race for lieutenant governor. It will be a female of color that will be elected. And both females do have immigrant backgrounds. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So win or lose, we're making history in that race. But now, the other reasons. Now, those are the numbers. But the reason behind those numbers, I'm going to refer to a roanoke.com, Roanoke publication, where it takes a look at some of the things that I also believe that have helped to shape this very close race. So we talked about one, being the school stance, that campaign issues that were pushed to the forefront. Because with schools, you get parents. You get two parents in a household that are very passionate about the education of their kids. So they're going to go to the polls and vote as a family unit. So you have individuals who are there at school board meetings. We see it. They're very passionate and so forth. So that's pushing the suburbs. That's pushing a lot of Republican conservatives and a lot of middle independents to the polls to vote for the Republican side. Also keep in mind that, as according to the Roanoke Club publication, it's only very recent that Virginia is blue. So it's not as blue as we think, the reliable blue. But the four of the last five governors we've had have been a Democrat, dating back to 2001 with Mark Warner, who's currently a U.S. Senator. And the last Republican governor has been Bob McDonnell. That was in 2009. But that gap has been closing since that time period. Now, how is it closing? Again, it's based upon issues, what those issues are. But as the voting electorate gets younger, it becomes more millennial dominated, Gen X. We see it becomes less conservative and more blue. Also, keep in mind that Governor McAuliffe is actually polling at the same level he polled at when he won the governorship last 4 years. He did not win by 50%. It was a little bit over 47%, almost 48%, because it was a three-way race. So McAuliffe won with 47.7%. So he's right at where he actually polled at when he won last time. With 2 weeks left, right? And it's really a two-person race, major party race. So can he win with 48%? The answer is no. He's got to win with at least the majority. I think Blandy may get 1% at the most, but he's got to win with a comfortable 50+%. Each candidate has to win with that. And then finally, voters simply may be tired. It's what we call voter fatigue. It happens, but as our first guest, Jason Inga, stated, this is a very important election. In this election, it is the litmus test for the rest of the country. Here, Virginians, we will set the pace for what happens for the rest of the country. That's a great feeling. It's a big responsibility, but it is also a great feeling for us to be in the center of it all. Now, they're pulling out the big stops. Every candidate is bringing in big guests. Stacey Abrams is here in the city of Norfolk. Youngkin, he's bringing in a lot of guests as well. But listen, we want you to make your choice. Make up your mind who you want to vote for. We're not telling you who to vote for. We're just giving you the facts, where you can get the information and bringing all sides to talk with you. Because here on Save the Water, we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Well, you hear the music in the background. That means we've had another phenomenal hour. And I hate for it to end, but guess what? We'll be back next Sunday at 1 o'clock here on the new sound of Hot 91, The Soul of VA, during our election series. Come back and find out who's on the ballot and why your vote is very important. I'm Dr. Eric Claville. I'm your host. This is Stay the Water. We'll see you next Sunday. God bless.